And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show, Wednesday, August 27th. I am Josh Engelman here, filling in for Loughy one more day. I'll be back tomorrow. And then we kind of bounce around. You get Loughy for a couple days, then I'm gone for a bit. NFL starts. And then once I get back, it's just me, MLB style, in the mornings for the rest of the season. Hit that like button if you're here. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engelman. Hope you had Pat Corbin yesterday. Can't say this show didn't do a deep dive into Pat Corbin. That did happen. And it worked. He was good. Can't complain about that one at all, can we? I feel pretty good about it. Corbin was solid. Hunter Brown was good. He had 20, but not a necessity at that price tag. Cease? No. I feel like from a pitching perspective, from what we looked at yesterday, I think we did a pretty damn good job on this show yesterday morning. For real. Stack-wise, it was kind of a crap day. No one really broke free. Atlanta had a ton of runs, but 2 homers from Albies didn't, I don't know. While they were the highest scoring stack, let me see what they had. 112 points, but it's 37 for Albies, 17 for Acuna, 11 for Eli White. So it's not like Atlanta was incredible. Milwaukee had 2 20-pointers. Minnesota, Gasper, Wallner, Keyshaw, 22, 20, and 18. It wasn't that kind of day yesterday, for sure. But I think we crushed the pitching side of it all yesterday. So shout out to you guys. You guys were shouting out some people that you wanted me to take a look at. And I think that worked out pretty well for us. Look, you can't, we're going to look at a bunch of stuff each day. We're not going to go 10 for 10. But if we cornered the market on Corbin yesterday like the way we did, that alone is going to help us out in a really big way. But one thing happened yesterday that we need to talk about to start off this show. I would argue that it's the most important thing that happened yesterday, and I want you guys to see it. This should be fun for everybody involved, because yesterday there was a very big contest going on DraftKings. Quite the big payout. Huge entry fee. And if you take a look at the screen right now, at Morgan Wiper on Twitter, on the X, took down the MLB $4 million ultimate main event. That's a big old win. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'm pretty sure you can. That is a Stokastic avatar with that name. We took down the $4 million ultimate main event last night. So shout out to, at least on DraftKings, CW279 on Twitter, at Morgan Wiper. Big old day yesterday. Lots and lots of moolah. $830,000. We picked out a big old win. So shout out to the Stokastic tools. Shout out to Morgan Wiper, aka CW279. We done did it. You want to sign up for the Stokastic Sims for MLB, for NFL, for all sports that exist? Link in the description, guys. Click it and sign up. You could also use these tools and potentially pick up a big win like we saw yesterday, but it doesn't get any better than that one, man. Who's the Stokastic avatar in 5th? Not sure. Let's take a look. I could rerun another sim once we get started. Pull it up in the post-contest sims. Oh, it's him, actually. Oh, Morgan, you're in the house. I got you. Chopped 1st and 5th. Can we talk about how ridiculous a chopped 1st is without the same lineup? That's pretty nuts. There's only 1,334 entries in this contest, and 2 of them had the same fantasy score with different lineups. 1st, 5th, 10th, 11th. Let's look at it. 1st, 5th, 10th, 11th, and 55th. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. That ain't bad. That ain't bad at all. We're looking damn good there. What did I just get? Morgan, as much as I would like to take credit, I'm a humble man. I did nothing. That's all you, brother. That's all you. You did it. You did it. That's a big old ship. You got to have the... Ultimately, it all comes down to whatever you're going to do. Chopped first and didn't share a single hitter. Contreras, Goldschmidt, Turang, Siegler, Volpe, Judge, Stanton, Bellinger versus Rogers, Kurtz, Torres, Keith, Wilson, Green, Rooker, Soderstrom. 2 completely different stacks, the exact same amount of fantasy points. That's bonkers. Truly bonkers. So, we love to see it. Kudos. Kudos. I hope that clapping in the microphone wasn't as bad as I realized it was after I was done doing it. Don't tell the government. That's for sure. DeWitt says, don't tell your wife. That too. But I wanted to touch on this because this is what we're here for, man. This is what we want to try to do. Create this. Now you're multiple $100,000 to the good. But now we got to get into it for today. I'm going to touch on the early slate at the end. It's 3 games. There's not a lot to say. We'll run through a sim or 2 for it. I think it makes a bit more sense to talk main right now, 10 gamer. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on the main, but I will touch the early slate as we get to the end. Yeah, Roger Allen, that's a great point. He said, get your ring too, brother. Yes, that is a big takeaway. Let's see if I can pull that up on the screen. Because it's not just about the dub. You head on over to the social section. Could rock the avatar. This is what happens. This is what you got to do. Tweet it to us after you win that sort of contest. It's a Ring of Honor, baby. Any 20K win gets it. Should have been a year of Sims. If you didn't chop, you would have had this one. But I think I could be wrong. But I think that payoff will still cover you for the year of Sims. But get the ring, man. It's available to you here, stokastic.com/hall-of-fame. Find it in the social tab under Rock the Avatar. If you're using the avatar, you can get yourself some freebies. Love it. All right, let's generate this main slate. And then let's take a look at it. We know where we're starting. And you guys should be able to see it on the left side of the screen. But Framber Valdez, top of the heap today, much like his teammate yesterday in Hunter Brown. This one looks different and better to me. Now, from a salary perspective, you've got Sonny Gray, $800 behind him. You've got Nolan McLean, $1,300 back. And then there's nobody else really all that close. He's 32% to be a top 2 pitcher. He is 56% owned right now. So that's a very different dynamic than what we had yesterday. Yesterday was flat. It was like the most anybody was like 25. Everything was in that 15 to 25 range. Today's set up very differently. He is pulling away from the pack, and I don't mind this one as much as I thought it was easier to get away yesterday. At least on the surface, I don't think that's the case so far. So I ran the Sims. I saved my top 150 lineups. And right out of the gate, what you can see here is going to be a little bit different than what we saw yesterday. Valdez is the most exposed pitcher. 85% of the top 150 lineups. He's 53% owned in the pool. It's just getting us to Valdez. Now, I don't mind it. And we could look at it here. On the season, Valdez just doesn't get touched. I mean, if a lefty is up there, nothing's going to happen. I mean, 0.091 real ISO, 0.074 X ISO, a 261 X WOBA allowed. If a lefty's stepping up against Framber Valdez, it's just not going to be an outcome that you're super worried about. It's not like righties are touching him up, though. 24% K rate. He's thrown almost 2,000 pitches to righties, 140 X ISO. If you just want to understand where the range is, the color scheme will help. That's a green X ISO, 323 X WOBA, 294 real WOBA. Those are white. They're not bad. So there's nothing in Framber Valdez data that points me to thinking, well, his data is not what I want. And if we take a look at some of the live odds, still looks good. I mean, the one thing you generally expect from Framber Valdez is depth in the game. When it's going for him, 6 innings is just what happens. And more than that is totally fine. But you're expecting 6, right? I think that makes the most sense. So if I pull up Framber Valdez here, we can get a good look at any of his prop market stuff. Or not, I reckon. Well, instead of just staying on the page that had this information, I chose to go to a different page. Make it worse. But 18.5 outs prop. So we're, 50-50 shot at 6 innings. The strikeout prop is more than reasonable at this moment. 6.5 juice to the over. So the only downside is should we be worried about the Colorado Rockies? And that just sounds like something that we won't be worried about. So let's take a look at the active rosters. We'll take a look at the performance against lefties. Now, Colorado has actually been fine against lefties this year. They oddly don't see them all that frequently. I think this is kind of crazy. They're 26th in plate appearances against lefties, 800 of them. The Phillies have seen 1,500 plate appearances against lefties. 700 more. That's almost double. Now, obviously, Philly's got Schwarber and Harper, so you're constantly running lefty arms out later in games, but they're like average, right? The K rate, 22nd, 21%. They've got a little bit of pop. They're 8th against lefties. So there is some power potential for Colorado. But does Valdez give it up? Doesn't seem it. I mean, how many home runs has he allowed on the season? 9. He's allowed 9 home runs this year. He's allowed 1 home run since July 5th. 6 innings, 7 innings, 6 innings, 6 innings, 5 2/3, 6 2/3, 5. He's allowed 1 home run in that entire time. And that's what we're talking about here, right? The biggest problem is going to be getting touched up. You can never predict getting BABIP to death. Seeing eye single, bloop double into the outfield. That stuff you can't predict. But one thing is for sure, he just doesn't give up home runs. I mean, he's given up 3 since June 5th. He didn't give up a single home run in June. He gave up 2 in LA to the Dodgers, and then has only given up 1 since then. This is a guy that just does not give up power. And I want to attack that. And it's not like the strikeouts don't show up. 12 Ks, 10 Ks, 12 Ks, 11 Ks, 9 Ks. They're in the chamber for him. And even more importantly, I don't think it matters a ton. He has not faced Colorado yet this season. So coming in fresh, no repeatability. I just don't see a reason why we would want to get away from him. Yesterday, I think, looked a lot different. Today, I think you do largely eat that chalk from Framber Valdez. The alternative, at least based on our top pitchers tool, would be Sonny Gray. Now, Sonny Gray is going to be at home. You're going to save $800. He's got a slightly lower top 2 pitcher odds. Sonny Gray is at 24, Framber Valdez at 32. Similar top value rankings, but Sonny Gray coming in, I mean, pretty close to half the ownership. 30% in the tool, showed up 28% in the pool. You know, we're talking 30 compared to 50 to 55. So you're getting a pretty giant discount in ownership, and you're saving some salary. So let's take a look at Sonny Gray to start. So this season for Sonny Gray, strikeouts are there. 29% K rate to lefties, 25% K rate to righties. Is giving up a little power. 183x ISO to righties. Has been a little unlucky when it comes to power. The ex-Wobas seem fine. The swinging strike rate stuff seems fine. He can get hit a little bit, but there's certainly strikeout upside here. So what's Sonny Gray's strikeout prop? Sonny Gray sitting at 6.5, a little bit of juice to the under, but still similar area to Valdez. If we take a look at the pitching props on the outside, Sonny Gray sitting at 17.5, juice to the over. So we're getting a very similar strikeout rate. We're getting a very similar outs prop. We have similar implied totals. Pittsburgh sitting at 3.4 runs. Colorado sitting at 3.2. Everything here seems pretty similar. So let's take a look at Pittsburgh and find out how that actually looks. So let's check that active roster. Let's check the righties. And let's check teams. So on the season, righties. Against righties, Pittsburgh Pirates are 29th in WRC plus, 89. The only team worse is the Colorado Rockies. Now, obviously, the Rockies are not facing a righty, but Pittsburgh couldn't be much worse. Even more importantly, a 124 ISO to right-handed pitchers this season, dead last in the league. And if you want to even look for more stuff that's great, Pittsburgh is 5th in strikeout rate against righties. So they K a lot. They have no power. And they are the 2nd worst team overall to right-handed pitching. Is there a little risk? I guess. So let's take a look at the park factors in St. Louis. So we take a look at Busch Stadium. 83 park factor. Oh, I can make that way bigger. There we go. 83 park factor overall for homers. An 88 to righties and a 77 to lefties. You're not going to find many parks that will negate power more than St. Louis's right now. If we just want to look at righties for the whole league, Busch Stadium is 20th in righty park factor this season at 88. If we want to look at lefties, this season, Busch Stadium, 27th. If we just want to think about it overall, just say how good are homers here? 24th. So we're in a park that heavily negates power. We've got a team in Pittsburgh that has no power to speak of and a lot of strikeouts. And we've got a pitcher with real strikeout stuff with a little bit of an issue with power. I don't think this spot could be any better. So that leads us back to the top again, where it's still Framber Valdez and it's still Sonny Gray. I see no reason to not pay up to both of those guys, which is a completely different vibe than what we had yesterday, where we were just drowning in 8K value. Now, the third most exposed guy is the guy that I think we need to actually have the conversation about. Chat, you let me know in chat right now if you guys see something different. I don't have any negatives for Valdez or Sonny Gray in terms of their output. If you guys see anything, let me know. I'll look at it. Ohtani's the first guy that I think we need to talk about. The implied total looks great. He's got the second highest top 2 pitcher odds of anybody. He's the third most owned guy behind Valdez, behind Sonny Gray. Einsteinium, yeah, they do change based on the time of the year. So I took Ohtani in the perfect lineup last week, and it didn't go well. That was the first start that he had that was like, not what you were looking for. However, the one takeaway from that start is that he did still face a bunch of batters. He faced 20 batters last time out. Now, he gave up 9 hits. He gave up 5 runs. It wasn't walking anybody, didn't give up any power, but not what you were looking for. But he faced 20 batters. So he faced 19 guys 2 starts ago. He faced 20 this time. The strikeout stuff is obviously there. 35 strikeouts in 27 innings. He's not walking anybody. Little hit unlucky, potentially. So the question you have to have today for Ohtani is, 1, can he get to 5 innings? I think that's the ceiling outcome for Shohei Ohtani today. If he's efficient, I don't think it goes any higher than 5 full. I'd be shocked if he went 6. So his right tail is a little bit smaller because I think his chance for a win is a little overrepresented just because of what he is right now. It's certainly not it's not talent based. So you're thinking, all right, I'm going to get 4 to 5 innings out of Shohei Ohtani. But let's take a look and see, do we have any supporting info in the betting markets? Now, if I remember correctly, there are no outs props for Ohtani. There are strikeout props, however. Good shout out there, Ken. And if we look at Ohtani's strikeout prop right now, it's sitting at 5.5 with some juice to the over. That's kind of all I need to see. Because that's basically telling us we're thinking 6 strikeouts in 4 innings. He's gone 4 innings all 3 of the last starts. This is the one right here we're most interested in. 4 innings, 14 batters faced, 8 Ks against the Cardinals. There's a need, you could face 4 more batters. That's still less than the previous 2 games, and that gets him to 5 and will allow us to qualify for a win. I think that's what we're looking for. But that's what you see here. Third most exposed pitcher is Ohtani. I really agree with the chalk today. So now my question to you guys is this. If we don't want those 3 chalky arms, who are we missing? Where do you guys want to be for starting pitching today? If it's not what I talked about. Because right now I'm expecting, I mean, we could total it up. 85, 44, and 39. 168 of the 200% ownership at pitcher is going to those 3 guys. That's 84% of all pitching exposure to Valdez, Gray, and Ohtani. So I want to know, who are we missing? Who do you guys have your eye on? What stands out to you guys? Where do you want to go tonight? Because I think we're miles ahead for these three. Don't mind McLean and Lodolo. MH says Colin Ray. There's another McLean shout. Bergert here against the White Sox. Solid value option. Lauer. Okay. Bogert again. I love that we've now spelled Bergert wrong twice. Good work, guys. All right, let me take a look at McLean quickly. I think we can give that one a good peek. So, not a lot of sample at this point. 180 pitches thrown, something along those lines. We're talking about the number 3 Mets prospect, number 53 overall coming out of Fangraphs. He threw 113 innings in the minors this year, 10 Ks per 9, 27% K rate. It's held up. 377 xFIP across AA and AAA this year. He's got real stuff. 60 curveball, 55 slider, commands, whatever. But I think that all makes sense. I have no problem with it. So then we got to take a look at the righty performance for everybody's favorite Philadelphia Phillies. Phillies are 10th in WRC plus against righties. They are 14th in ISO, and they are 25th in K rate. So I don't have an issue getting to McLean here. And the ownership discount is helpful. But the difference between facing Philly and facing Colorado and Pittsburgh, I think that's what's causing the ownership gap. I don't mind McLean as a pivot. I don't see anything that would make me want to take a stand on him, though. 16.5 outs prop. No real juice either direction. If we want to take a look at the strikeout prop, sitting at 4.5 to 5.5, probably looking at something right around 5. So that's coming in like a full strikeout lighter than both of those guys. So, like, relative to ownership, I think McLean grades out pretty well. I think there's a lot more downside to McLean and a lot more upside in Sonny Gray. We're going to move it over to the stacks now, and we got to talk about the one that's separating from the pack. Texas is in everything for us. By the way, we're at the midway point. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. For those of you that are here and are waiting for early slate talk, we're going to work our way through the main first and then close the show with a quick look at that 3-gamer. It's not the type of slate that takes a lot of time. It's 3 games. You play everybody. You've got, 54 hitters available. Every one of them's on the table. You got 6 pitchers on the table. Every one of them is rosterable. So we will get to that, and we will check out the sims. But we got a real 10-gamer tonight. This is the one that matters. And Texas is in 39% of our top 150 lineups with 5-man stacks. And I can show you why in the top stacks tool right now. And it's stark, honestly. They're 4th in top stack odds, but essentially tied for 2nd. Detroit, miles away from everybody else. Toronto, the A's, Texas, all sitting right at 7%. The difference between those teams, Texas is 21% to be the top value stack. The next closest team is at 7. They are, Texas right now, the number 1 team in stack score. So even if Detroit is twice as likely to be the top stack, Texas runs them down. As of right now, Texas is the highest owned stack, but it's 7.5%. No real difference to Detroit or to Toronto or even really Kansas City. But they are so easy to roster because of their price tags that they are showing up in everything out of the gate. And there's not much I disagree with. If you go and look at Texas, they're taking on Jack Akanowitz. He gets bludgeoned by lefties. He's thrown 1,100 pitches to lefties this year, 194x ISO, 367x WOBA, sub 10% swinging strike rate. It's a bit better against righties, at least from a power perspective. But overall, not great. We're talking about a guy with a 14% K rate. That's not any good. So let's look at Texas against righties. Not a lot to write home about here. 23rd in WRC plus, right around average. They don't strike out all that much. Not that it matters in this matchup. From an ISO perspective, middle of the pack, 162. But I think you can pick off some individual bats from Texas in a much easier way. So if I just hit these filters and sort to Texas, I think it'll help show just how easy it is to get to these guys. Because look, I can say this much for sure. We would bring this down. I don't want 50% of Corey Seager, Duran, or Wyatt Langford. We're miles ahead of the field for where we need to be. But Seager's a $4,600 shortstop. Duran is $2,200 with an MPE. No one's more expensive than $4,600. We only have two guys in the 4Ks. This whole team is free across the board. And that's what's causing these exposures. But what we really need to figure out is, what are we really getting from Texas? Because we would never, I would never just say, all right, cool, look here, we could show it here in the ROI boost section. 60% of all of our hitting exposure is going to Texas. The next closest team is Detroit at 17. So just by default, I'm going to knock Texas back with a sizable negative boost. And now if I take that top 50, we can see we're already down to 25%. We took it from 60 overall to 35. I'm going to take one more negative 5% notch out of it. And this should really just flatten out everything we have. So now this is perfect. So now we're down to 19%, which is still a massive number. But now instead of separating from the pack, Detroit's sitting here at 22. The Cubs are here at 15. Now we have a lot more balance. That's a big stand on Texas. That's a big stand on Detroit. That's a pretty big stand on Chicago as well. And we still have reasonable amounts of Kansas City and the A's. Texas, Detroit, Kansas City, the Cubs, and the A's are 5 of the top 6 stack score teams. And now, if we look at our individual player exposures, instead of having 50% of all of these Texas bats, we're now down to the high 30s. I feel so much better here. 35 of Duran, 30 of Langford, 30 of Seager. Now we're much flatter. Would I like a little bit more Jonah Heim, a little bit less Higashioka for some balance? Sure, but that's a quibble for later. But now we have balanced exposures. How did that impact pitching? Because we know what our stands were before. They haven't changed. We got a little bit more of Ohtani, a little bit less of Sonny Gray, but it's still big stand Valdez, big stand Ohtani, big stand Sonny Gray, and very little of anything else. So now that we've got our stacks dialed in, we can see that Texas still the best thing that we can find today, and very easy to get to. And not only easy to get to, but easy to fill out the rest of your lineup because of what they've got going on here. Now, I have no problem at all getting to some of Detroit. They're not all that owned. I mean, this is 13.5% top stack, 7.5% ownership. There is leverage here. The highest top stack team right now also has the highest leverage score. So I don't have a single issue getting to Detroit, in Oakland, whatever, Sutter Health Park, huge hitters park for them. But I mean, that seems very easy to get to. Texas and Detroit are our top 2 exposed teams. They both have a 10 stack score, and the next closest team is at 6.5. So yeah, I want my 2 biggest stacks to be these guys. I'm getting the 3 pitchers I want the most. I'm getting the 2 stacks I want the most. This looks completely different than yesterday. A totally different vibe. But at least where the ownership is for right now, there is nothing stopping us from getting all of the best stuff. None of the individual ownership is stopping us from doing that. Save for Valdez at 50%, and I think he deserves it. So just like we did when we looked at the pitchers, I'm now going to do the same thing and ask you guys about the hitters. What stack have I not talked about that you guys think I should talk about? Because we got some options. Kansas City, the A's, Toronto. I mean, Houston isn't a good value stack, but they've got a really nice top 2 odds. Ryan, you serious with Philly? The number 19 ranked stack score team? Bills, Mets, Brewers, Angels. I mean, we could take a peek at Philly. No one's rostering them, that's for sure. Either Toronto or the A's again. Okay. Does feel like there's not like a clear consensus sneak team. Let's look at Philly quick. So Philly against McLean. We already sort of touched on McLean from the McLean side. We know what we're getting from Philly. So versus righties, Philly, 10th in WRC plus. Obviously, we know what their power looks like. I don't I don't mind Philly. I'll say this much. I think this is the easiest way to talk about Philly. Because Philly has the second lowest stack score of anybody. I don't think that paints them in the correct light. I think they're underrepresented. Not to mention, you do get a little bit of help from the fact that McLean's pulling ownership. But you guys can see it on the screen right now. I don't know if you caught it. We don't have a single Philly stack anywhere in our top 150. King Mana, glad you enjoyed. So, do we even have it? What does it look like? This is the high. This one right here is the highest ranked Philly 5-man we have. And it went Valdez, Savali. Morgan. Morgan says, are we avoiding Detroit because of ownership? We aren't doing anything. You are probably going to do something that wins yourself a lot of money. But no, I'll hop back to it so you can see it. But for right now, Detroit is my second most exposed team. Detroit is just sort of always going to be here because of their top stack odds. Because of Texas being so valuable from a point per dollar perspective, they're the ones separating from the pack. But it's very easy to also get Detroit. I will not be avoiding Detroit here. But, I mean, if you stack Philly and you're right, you aren't fighting a lot of people with that stack. I also think it's kind of interesting, like, you see these other teams at the bottom, 3.3 run implied total, 3.5 run implied total. Philly's at 4.3. Let's see if we can build a Philly lineup in the single lineup sim. So let's find the Philly bats first. So let's go ahead and get Turner, Harper, Schwarber, Real Muto, and then I'm going to take Alec Boehm. Pitching's going to be tough. We're clearly not going to be able to go to what we truly want here. Now, we can definitely take Valdez. The ownership for Valdez is meaningless if we're rostering Philly. And I think I'm going to go Ohtani. He's the third best point per dollar option. The ownership's a little bit lower. I do think it's reasonable to try and get somebody else there for some cheaper. Oh, we can't even do this. So I got to change this immediately. You can see it. I don't even have $2,000 to fill this out. So it's either if I take out Valdez and go to Sonny Gray, we have $2,200 per position. This is going to be the worst second baseman outfield we can get if it exists. And it does. Duran, McCarthy, Massey fills out the lineup, spends the full bag. My guess is this is negative. I'm not confident in this. Yeah, negative 11. That's a tough build. I don't think that you can go to all of the best pieces of Philly. At least not intuitively. If I look at Philly here. Okay, so we got to get Brandon Marsh in. He's the easiest value option to get to. The lowest value option is Schwarber. Now, it's never fun to sit Schwarber, but I'm going to do that in this moment. I'm going to swap Schwarber for Brandon Marsh, which actually saves us $2,700 overall. So now when I get Marsh in there, we might be a little bit better off trying to find pitching. I'm going to try with Valdez and Ohtani to start, and I'll see if I have to get rid of Valdez. We're up to 2,800 now to fill this out. That's a little bit more functional. We go Duran, Wyatt Langford, and Massey. Let's see if this looks any better. And then I'll pull up the... Okay, we're into the positives. We're making it. We're making it work. Last try here. Valdez out. Duran out. Langford out. Massey out. I'm going to keep Ohtani, and I'm going to allow the single lineup sim to pick our final pitcher. I'm curious if it gives us Valdez. If it does, then I'm going to lock Gray. Okay, it did. So I kind of figured it would because he's such a good value. But if I take Gray, that gives us 3,100 per position. For Duran, Langford, Jake McCarthy, 400 left over. Can we still be positive with Gray over Valdez? It's going to be right around zero, I think. I mean, that's about as right around zero as you could be. 2%. Philly's tough. Philly's tough. Philly is going to force you to leave off someone you don't want to leave off. That's what we have. Now, let's take a look at the early. Thanks for putting up with me, guys. We got 15 minutes to break down the early. There's 3 games. How difficult could that possibly be? So I'm going to flip this to the early. Let's generate an early slate contest. I've got the top stacks tool pulled up for the early as well. So while this is running for the early, we can get an idea of what we want. So from a top stacks perspective, Yankees are at the tip, as are the Braves. Cavalli going for Washington, Ryan Gusto going for the Marlins. They're both right around 25% owned. Or sorry, they're both right around 25% top stack. Now, they're also both right around 25% ownership share. They're both the only teams that cross 20 in stack score. Seems very clear that the Yankees and the Braves, oddly enough, the 2 biggest teams in my life growing up, they are the 2 breakaway stacks. Doesn't necessarily mean we love them, although based on what I'm looking at, I'm sure we're going to. But they are the ones standing out. Atlanta, quite a bit easier to roster than New York. 20% top value for the Yanks, 20% top value for the Braves, 12 for the Yanks. But let's see what the sim looks like and see what we're naturally getting to, and we can try to chip away at it a bit. Ryan, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me take a little Gatorade sip here for a second while you guys hit the like button. Yeah, Ryan, I could take a peek at it. Let me just make sure there's nothing in like wildly unintuitive about the stack size on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. If it's Yanks in Atlanta pulling away from the pack, then we can kind of talk about this in the same way. Oh, so FanDuel only has 2 games? Oh, it's the very early. Got it. Okay, so it's still Yankees and Braves. Similar stack score stuff on the FanDuel side. So basically anything I'm saying here is going to be universal from a stack perspective. That's helpful. Okay, so we got the sim done. Let me scoot this over a little bit. Should be able to let you guys see that a little bit more. All right, let's see. Top 100 lineups on the early. If we take a look at pitching, it's Max Fried, but well under the field. Big Stan, Cade Cavalli. Okay, we're probably going to see something different. The Washington Nationals are the top stack coming out of the Sims, which is interesting because they are 5th of 6 in top stack odds. They're 5th in stack score, and they are facing Max Fried, who at press time is 82% owned. So at the very least, let's take a peek, right? Washington with the date with Fried. 30% K rate to lefties, 20 to righties. Does give up power to lefties, does not to righties. How have the Nats been against lefties this season? Versus lefties, active roster, Washington Nationals, 28th. They have the second highest K rate, and they are 25th in ISO. So WRC plus sucks. They strike out a ton. The ISO isn't there, so they have no power. I got to be honest. It's a short slate, so you can't run away from it completely. But there's a 0% chance that I like the numbers that showed up here right now. I don't like Washington as the stack. None of that looks good. None of that looks good. So I'm going to dramatically negative ROI boost Washington right now, because that leverage is not something I'm enjoying. Now, I gave them a pretty sizable negative boost. We have knocked them down in a pretty big way. They're down to 13% overall instead of 30%. And now they are the 5th most owned team out of everything. We've got 32% of the Yanks, 31 of Cleveland, 25 of Miami. But in terms of 5-man stacks, basically in the lineups that we don't have Max Fried, we probably have a Washington 5-man. That I can handle. I think that's a little bit more reasonable. We're running pretty neutral to the Yanks overall. We're running pretty neutral to Miami overall. Decent chunk of Cleveland, especially in 3-mans. That seems to be the separator. But if we go back and look at the pitching exposure now we're neutral on Fried. If you remember, he was like 50% owned before we changed that because of Washington. Now we have 84% Max Fried. More or less in that 16% where we don't have him, we're probably running out a Washington Nationals 5-man stack. That I can handle. I think the other funny part to look at is that Ryan Gusto is our second most exposed pitcher against Atlanta, the second highest ranked stack. So what does the top pitchers tool look like for this early slate? Gusto showing up at the bottom, but it's pretty clear he's under-owned. 13% overall ownership for Ryan Gusto. A 24% chance to be a top 2 pitcher. I mean, it's what this is basically saying is that Ryan Gusto is one of the top 2 scoring pitchers 1 out of every 4 times we play this slate. If he's a top 2 scoring pitcher, he's a guaranteed lock to have him because he's 6,700. If he's the second highest scoring pitcher, he's the biggest necessity in the world. And if we think he does that once out of every 4 times we do it, 13% ownership seems too low. This is the same conversation for Cade Cavalli. 25% top 2, 13% owned. You can see it in our exposures right now. We're more than 2xing Gusto. We're more than 2xing Cavalli. I actually like getting different like this because it's not stopping us from having Miami and Washington. Miami's 25% of our lineups. Washington's 16. We know we're getting those stacks. But these guys, this is the way that we can have an easier path to the top. Because I believe these 2 paydown arms are not getting as much ownership as they should. And I think that stands out. Clearly, Fried is on a completely different level than everybody else here. The Nats are dog shit against lefties. They've done nothing, and he's great. But supporting Fried with these cheaper arms, I don't have a problem with it at all. Let's build an early slate lineup and see what it looks like. So if we want to go to Fried, it means we're definitely not going to the Nats. I'm fine with that. But I'm going to go Max Fried, Ryan Gusto here. And if that's what we're going to do, we need a stack. So if we look at the early top stacks tool, we have Gusto and we have Fried. So we're definitely not going to Atlanta or Washington. We have a path to Yankee bats if we want them. However, I think this is our move. Our boy Slade stinks. 248x ISO allowed to lefties this season, 750 pitches, 240 to righties, 750 pitches, 16% K rate to righties, can't generate any swings and misses. But if we look at the top stacks tool, Tampa, less owned than the Yanks, less owned than the Braves, for one main reason. They're the worst value on the day by a mile. 8.9% top value odds. This is pulling them down. But if we're going to be using a $6,700 Ryan Gusto, I think that's the salary savings that we need. So let's fill this out for Tampa. We'll get Fiducia. We'll get Everson Pereira. We can get Chandler Simpson. Those are pretty great value options. And then let's take a peek at Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lowe. We'll leave Caminero off for now. That leaves us 4,800 for a third baseman, a shortstop, and an outfielder. Gives us Ryan McMahon. Gives us Otto Lopez. Gives us Aaron Judge. $800 left on the table. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, I got to move that up to a large contest, but still. -19, not the best start. Let me take Ryan McMahon, Judge, and Lopez out. Complete that again. Because I had it on small contest. That could be a problem. Might need to carve this out a little bit. Find a little bit more help. There we go. Large contest gets us to 14%. I like this a lot. Tampa lower owned. Gusto very much lower owned. That's working out pretty well. I want to see if we can improve this by moving Tampa around. Because maybe we don't need as much value as I took. What if I take Chandler Simpson out of there and add in Junior Caminero? That's a lot more salary to spend, That gives us a shortstop and 2 outfielders. I'm curious if we still get Aaron Judge. We do. We get Volpe, Judge, and Michael Harris. I mean, we might be taking on too much ownership here. But that's a better lineup to me than what it was the first time. See, ROI-wise, not so much. I think it's Camanero's just too owned. 31% ownership to Caminero is the thing that's hurting us here. But I guess I could try to sneak Carson Williams in instead. Third base, outfield. Gives us, oh, baby. Okay. By swapping that to Carson Williams, it gives us Acuna, Judge, and Ryan McMahon. Now, this might still be too much ownership, but this feels like the best thing we built. It's the biggest negative. Really? Man. It's got to just be the Judge and Acuna ownership that's hurting us there. Who's the best value big bat that I can get to? Xavier Edwards, maybe? I already have a second baseman. I mean, Judge is just so far ahead of everybody else. What if I take out Everson Pereira for Chandler Simpson? That gives us Acosta, Judge, Harris. Is that enough of a discount? This is the last one we're doing, folks, on this early slate. But I think to take negative 0.0, we'll leave on the note of being totally average. So for the early slate, I don't know how you get away from Max Fried. The matchup's too good. I really, honestly do like Ryan Gusto and Cade Cavalli as pay down options for the early. And I think Tampa's the sneak move that's just kind of hiding because they're not a good value. That's where we stand for this early slate. And that's it for me. You guys get Loughy back tomorrow. I think you'll get Loughy for tomorrow and Friday. And I think you'll get me for Monday and Tuesday. And then I'm going to be out for a week. But that's where we stand for right now. One last thing to do, guys. I'm going to post the tweet into chat right now. I posted a article. So link is now on Twitter. Whoops, wrong window. Just to show you guys here. I put out a tweet with a link to the perfect lineup article for today. I know people were asking in the comments section yesterday where it's been. It just so happens that I was out for a couple days, then Loughy's out right now. So we just didn't have the right link up to get it out. So instead of me putting out a solo version today, I wrote up the article for the main slate for the perfect lineup. Link in the tweet, in the second tweet, but you see it on the screen right now. Click the link, go check it out. Totally free, but subscribe, follow me on Tails. I'm going to be posting content there regularly, but I did write up the perfect lineup as an article today. So go check that out. Guys, thank you for being here. I got to get going. Good luck on both slates today. Tell Loughy I said hi tomorrow. Oh, home run roulette back tomorrow. Be ready.